If you're building AI automations for agents that handle customer data, one thing you really need to think about is what information you are actually sending to the AI model. In industries like healthcare, finance, insurance, or legal services, that data can include names, emails, phone numbers, social security numbers, account numbers, medical information, and other sensitive details. In many cases, the AI doesn't actually need that information to do its job. So in this video, I'm going to show you a simple way to put a protection layer in front of your AI system using Google Sensitive Data Protection. The idea is simple. Before the data gets sent to the AI model, we detect sensitive information and anonymize it. I'll show you how the flow works, and then we'll test it with a small Node.js app so you can see the anonymization happening in real time. Let me share my screen and show you how it works. So we have this screen. I designed this simple screen to make it easier for you guys to understand what's going on behind the scene. So we have this input screen where we have sensitive information that we're going to be sending to the AI model. And in a real automation, that will be coming from a form or a website or any other system. And it would come to your anonymizer, and then after the anonymization, we send to the AI model. But for the purpose of this video, we're going to use this manual input. So we have here customer information, which is sensitive information, email, phone number, social security number, all right? And before we send to the AI model, we want to remove those sensitive information because we don't want the social security and phone number of the client to be sent to the AI model. That's not a good practice, and whenever possible, we should avoid sending any sensitive information to the AI model unless the model really needs or is an internal model that has appropriate guardrails, doesn't have access to the outside world, things like that. It cannot be hacked or something like that. So in most cases, people, when you're building automation or agents, you're relying on public commercial models. And since you don't have control of those models, it's better to anonymize all this information and make sure that whatever is sent to the AI model doesn't include any sensitive information. So let's go ahead and click this button, anonymize and summarize, and see what happens. It's working. So right now it connects to Google Sensitive Data Protection Services. And as you can see, he removed the name. He replaced name, John Smith, person name, email with email address, phone number, US social security number. So this is after we send this input to Google Sensitive Data Protection Service. It recognizes all this sensitive information and replace it with placeholders. And this is the information. As you can see, this is OpenAI summary. We send this anonymized text to OpenAI. And as you can see, OpenAI didn't have access to any of the sensitive information. The model doesn't know if it's John Smith, doesn't have access to John Smith email, phone number, and social security number. All the model could see is person name, email address, phone number, and social security number. And that's what we want, because this is for the model to do its work. And then what you have to do when you receive this information back from the model, you got to replace back. So you got to have some sort of internal system to match all these fields back to the original fields. And that's something that you can do internally, deterministically. You can have some code that keeps track of what, for example, that person name was used to replace this, address was used to replace this. So you can keep a table inside of your system. When the information, the reply comes back from the AI model, you can just find the record and replace with the original information. Because you, internally, your system can have access to this information because the patient is trusting you. But OpenAI or any other third-party providers that shouldn't have access to this information, they will not see the sensitive information. So this is how it works. And again, this is a simplified version, so it's easier to understand how this works. Here we have two services. We have the anonymizer, which uses Google's Sensitive Data Protection Service. And then we have OpenAI. It could be Claude, also Claude API. You could use here, it doesn't matter. So we're going to go, let me show you quickly the code behind this. This is the interface, but when I click anonymize and summarize, it sends to this backend code API. As you can see, we are using Google Cloud Data Protection Service, and we have a Node.js Express instance. You can do this in Python, but in this case, I'm using Node.js. And I have all my variables. I define the OpenAI model, OpenAI key, etc. And one thing that is important to know is that Google Sensitive Data Protection Service relies on info types to detect all type of sensitive information in an input. For example, here we define person name, phone number, age, gender. These are all the types of information that the service is going to be looking up that input sent by user, by your website form or whatever, and it's going to be looking up those information and replace them. Because I had a phone number, it replaced phone number, it replaced email, person name. That's what it was able to find here. Exactly, person name, email address, phone number. So it was able to detect those info types and it replaced them. So here you define what type of information you want Google sensitive data protection to detect, because depending on your industry, maybe there's different kind of information you're supposed to receive. For example, maybe you never received driver license number. So probably you'll say, you don't have to look for a driver license number because I never received that. Or to be safe, you can just put any kind of sensitive information, just replace it, just to be safe. You could do that. So we have this endpoint identified where everything happens. So when the input comes from here, when you click Anonymize and Summarize, it sends this information. And then it comes here, and there is this function de-identify, which is defined here. As you can see, this function de-identify text receives the input, and it's info type transformation, and it uses the info type config that we need initially, all the info types that we want to be transformed. And it goes through the text, the input, and transforms all and change all the sensitive information according to the input type, to the info type that we define here. I'm not going to go too much into explaining how this thing is, just to give you guys a little bit of backstage view of what's happening. So after he de-identifies, as you can see, it stores the results in this variable, and then we send that to OpenAI. As you can see, OpenAI receives the identified text as input, and then it makes that call to OpenAI to summarize that information and then returns that information, as you can see here. So this is a basic example, but it gives you enough background for you to take from here and probably research a little bit more in terms of how you're going to implement it. Maybe use it Python or a different language. I use Node.js. You can use this with Python. But the idea is to have this microservice, right? Have this as a microservice running as a standalone service in a server, your own server. And if you're using N8N or Zapier or any other low-code tool platform, you can send a HTTP call to this microservice to run the anonymization and send you back the anonymized data, right? And then from N8N or Zapier, you can call your AI model. Or if you have a custom app, you can also do the same. You just can connect your custom app to this microservice, make a call to this microservice to de-identify, anonymize the data, and send that back to your app. And then your app can communicate with OpenAI and vice versa. So that's the idea. And the only thing you have to do for this to work, essentially, you need to set up Google. Actually, you have to enable sensitive data protection service in your Google Cloud account. So essentially, you have a project. If you don't have, you have to create one. Once you have the project, you can come here, APIs and service, enable API and service, and then you search sensitive data protection right here, as you can see, but I already installed it, so I'm not going to enable it again. And already have it. And then you have to create credentials for your sensitive data protection. You just go ahead and create credentials and service account. Usually for production, you want to create service account. And then you fill all the information and click continue and done. And then you can always research Google for how to set up these credentials, but it's pretty straightforward. And one thing also you have to do is download the Google Cloud SDK, because that's what we're going to use on commands in G Cloud init, for example, Google Cloud command lines. You can run a bunch of commands. So hopefully this is clear enough and you got some value out of this video. I was actually working and I decided to stop because I'm working actually in a project similar to this where I'm using Google Sensitive Data Protection. I decided I'm just going to share this with you guys quickly because I think it's pretty interesting. And also I have a lot of people asking me, sometimes I see from low code, no code developers, how you remove the information before you send to the AI model, because one thing is building automation for maybe a HVAC, plumbing company, they might get in that sensitive information. Another thing is building automation for a healthcare facility where they receive sensitive information or financial information, insurance type of industry where you receive a lot of sensitive information and you want to protect the information before you send to the AI model. And those companies, sometimes they don't want to invest in an internal model that they can keep local. So they rely on these commercial models, Claude, OpenAI, Grok, etc. So since you don't have control of those models, it's better to clean up the data, remove all the sensitive information before you send to the AI model. Again, hopefully this was useful. And if it was, make sure you like and subscribe. Drop your comment below if it was useful and what else you guys would like me to talk about. And thanks for watching and see you in the next video.